And welcome to ProLine, direct from Las Vegas. I'm Dave Cokin, joined by Jim Feist. We're going to be breaking down some baseball and NBA action. We're going to provide some wagering strategies on today's show, and we're also going to be talking NFL. Never too early to talk about the National Football League. Jim, we've got free subscriptions to the channel and other stuff that people get free as well when they subscribe.
Absolutely. It's like Christmas all over again. Go to ProLineTV.com, click on the subscribe button. You'll get notifications on new videos. Plus, you'll be sent a code to get 7 days of my service for free. That's ProLineTV.com.
All right. Well, I've got a little something to tell people about as well, which is my NBA playoffs so far. It's now an 11-3 NBA playoff run after Toronto got the money on in Game 7 on Sunday, the blowout, and then I bit the hand that fed me on in Game 1 of the Toronto-Cleveland series, all over the Cavaliers in that game. 7 days of my top value plays. And this is people play a significant amount of money for this. $79 for 7 full days starting tonight. You're going to get my powerhouse baseball plays, all the NBA playoff action, and you're going to save a bunch of money as well. Call 855-472-2577. That's 855-472-2577. Jim, I know you got something strong as well.
Absolutely, Dave. We're both doing really well in the NBA. 19-8 run in the NBA playoffs, including 2-0 on Monday with OKC and the under in that game, plus 2-0 on Tuesday with Cleveland and the Toronto under 95. You can play team totals as well. 8-2 in my high roller platinums. Last Wednesday, I hit my Major League Baseball mismatch game of the year with the Cardinals, 5-2. Wednesday, I have a $1,000 parlay, another baseball game of the year release, and an NBA high roller, each $500. Get both right now, $49 by calling 866-546-9467.
All right, so let's talk a little NBA.
Okay.
And we've got Game 2 tonight between the Warriors and the Thunder, and I think this is fair. I know it's just Game 2, but this is the first time the entire season the Golden State Warriors have had their backs against the wall. They can't lose both games at home to Oklahoma City. They're still the favorite in the series, but that changes if they lose again tonight. So this is put up or shut up time. I know the 73 wins were awesome, but they don't count right now.
You know, during the season I was critical of the Warriors for pressing so much to go after that record because I felt it was going to possibly cause more injuries because they're using a lot more minutes for their starters, the stars, and I felt they should be resting them. Years ago, Rudy Tomjanovich did it with Houston. Popovich has been doing it as well, resting their stars so they're fresher when they get to the playoffs. I don't think Golden State did that as well as they should have. Now, granted, they're very deep, and maybe they can get away with doing that. But you can see that OKC, obviously, they have a young coach coming out of college. They made a couple of adjustments. They've gone big. Nobody does that in the NBA anymore. They've got the big guys down low that are keeping you from going to the boards because they're rim protectors. And you know they have, of course, Durant and Westbrook that can do it, but they didn't play that well in Game 1. 17 for 52 or something like. Terrible shooting percentages, but they still won the game because they killed them in the third and fourth quarter. That when teams get tired, you see the fatigue come out in the third and fourth quarter. Big lead at the half, up 13, lose the game by 6.
Well, and look at, you got some guys who maybe you wouldn't expect to be stepping up for Oklahoma City to the level that they have. Adams, guy's more than just a real good mustache. Okay, I mean, this guy's a pretty good player. And the Warriors were awful in the fourth quarter. That was one of the worst quarters of basketball they've played all season. They forced shots. Draymond Green had a lousy quarter. I think you're going to see this Oklahoma City team continue to play well in the series, but I do think Golden State's going to step up with a gigantic effort tonight.
Let's talk about that. I agree that they're going to step up with a gigantic effort. But how about if both of these teams are actually more equal now than what their records show? Really, should they be 8.5, 9-point favorite tonight? You know,
well,
how can you possibly make it that large?
If you watch the first half of Game 1, you'd say, yeah. I mean, the Warriors dominated that first half. They go off double digits. You got to figure at that point. Let's put it this way. If you'd have told, I never even bothered to look at halftime to see what Oklahoma City was on the money line because, quite honestly, I didn't think they had a Chance to cover? Yes. A chance to win the game? I'm shocked that they came back and won the game.
Well, perhaps I have a different feel for it because I had Oklahoma City, I had the under, and I felt they were going to come back in the
See, I didn't have anything.
They're a younger team. They're making good adjustments, and I saw what they did with the Spurs. Now, granted, the Spurs are a different team than the Warriors, much older, not as athletic. But I've seen this Warrior team not cover spreads, these big spreads.
Oh, no, I know.
And now we're almost dealing with another double-digit. Okay, over the years, there's been a zigzag theory that everybody plays in the playoffs, and it's made everybody a lot of money, Dave, but it's really softened lately. Now, if you told me the Golden State was a 6-point favorite in this game, I said, okay, maybe. Maybe that's the right number. Maybe 5.5, maybe 6, but 9? Because you're going to see 9. You might even see 10 in this game by tip-off. That's too many points.
I'm going to go the other way. I like Golden State in the game. I think you're going to see the Warriors really step forward. And the one area that I do like, and you can call it whatever you want as far as an angle. I don't have names for angles. But when a team loses as a good-sized favorite in the playoffs, and they come back the next game and and they have to lose by a decent margin, which the Warriors actually ended up doing. They lost by what, 6?
6.
These teams do bounce back the next game. So if you want to call it zigzag, although for me, zigzag has another connotation. For those of you living in Colorado and Oregon, I think you know what I mean. I think the Warriors do come back with a big effort tonight. This is their biggest game of the season. They're the defending champions. They won 73 games this year. I think they're completely legitimate, one of the best teams I've seen, and I think the Warriors step forward with a big performance tonight and get the money. So we're kind of on opposite ends of this one.
Well, I don't think we're on opposite ends of it, Dave. I think we're on opposite ends of where the value is at the 9-point line.
That part I can't disagree with that.
I feel like if I laid Golden State, I'd be laying maybe a 3 or a 4-point teaser to the bookmaker. And the bookmaker already takes a lot of our money anyway. Why give them a 4-point teaser? I think they gained 5, 6, maybe 6, because the athletes on the other side are young, they're fresh, they're not hurt. They've been doing it. It's hard for me to lay 9 points with the team.
Fortunately, the bookmakers have not been taking our money away in the NBA playoffs. We're both doing well, so we're kind of butting heads a little bit.
Let's talk about laying big points. Last night, we saw Cleveland demolish Toronto.
Well, that was just such a great spot for Cleveland.
Toronto.
Great spot.
Yeah, and they're laying double digits.
The only thing I heard that was negative at all was, well, maybe they got rusty with the time off.
Oh, yeah, they're rusty.
Toronto's off arguably the biggest win in their franchise history, Game 7 win over Miami. Now they got to go in on a quick turnaround and face this team that's just destroying everything in sight in the Eastern Conference. It's rare that I say this, but there was never even hesitation in my mind to lay the points last night. I'm not a big favorite player, even though I like the favorite tonight. I'm not really a big favorite player in the NBA, but it's like Cleveland's going to kill this team.
Well, you feel the same way about Golden State tonight.
Yes.
So, usually when the team loses, the odds makers will change the price in favor of the team that lost. When that's being done tonight, instead of a 7.5 or an 8, you're looking at an 8.5 or a 9. But tomorrow, instead of a 10.5 or 11, you're looking at a 12.5 or a 13.
Yeah, that might scare me away.
There's no respect for Toronto at all.
Yeah, Cleveland might relax a little bit. All right, quickly, Yankees and Diamondbacks continuing their series. Nathan Eovaldi on the mound for the Yankees, throws the ball 99 miles an hour. It doesn't move a lot of the time. That's a problem for him. Shelby Miller, this is a disaster for the Diamondbacks right now. They were completely ridiculed for making this trade with the Braves, and right now it looks like the armchair quarterbacks knew more than the Diamondbacks did.
Even when Shelby Miller was pitching well last year, they weren't giving him any support, and he didn't do well. I know you don't like ERAs.
Well, I think there's better ways to look at it.
There's better ways to look at it, but and I know you don't like this game. I don't like it either. No. But when you look at the ERAs, the Yankees are bad on the road. Eovaldi's got a 4.06, 135 whip, and you're looking at Miller with a 6.04 ERA, which is absolutely horrible, no matter how you get there.
No, and his numbers are that bad.
Yeah, and the 170 whip, which is horrible. So the Yankees should be the favorite in this game, except I can't lay it with the team that can't win on the road. They don't hit.
No.
But they should hit Miller.
They should, and the one good thing as far as the Yankees goes, if it gets to the 7th inning and it's a tie game or they're ahead by 1, the game's pretty much over with that Yankee bullpen. That is the strength of them. I have to adjust my models a little bit on the Yankees because I got to tell you something. There are so many bad aspects of this team, but that bullpen is still an absolute monster. Welcome back to Pro Line. It's time to look at Game 2 between the Raptors and Cavaliers. Everybody knows what happened in the first game. Just an absolute obliteration. And that's been the whole story for Cleveland in the NBA playoffs. Jim, I look at this and I'm asking myself, is Toronto just happy to be there at this point?
Well, the East, we've said it all year long, the East is very light, very weak, except for Cleveland. LeBron James, they got Love, they got Kyrie Irving, they got a new coach, and he seems to be doing what the players want him to be doing. So Blatt got fired, bring this guy in, doing a great job. They didn't focus that much on the regular season except just to get there, and they did. Now, Toronto, they got by Miami, but Miami had injuries. I don't know if that was really they were that good or just Miami that hurt. But this team now, too, they're coming in here without the big guy in the middle. Valanciunas, arguably, is the best player they have on the team because he protects the rim, he can score, very athletic, big physical guy. He might be back for Game 3, but he's not going to be back for Game 2. They scored 84 points the other night. But Cleveland's been holding everybody down. They've only given up over 100 points 3 times in the playoffs. By the way, they've won all 9 games they've played, and one of those times the game went into overtime. So their defense has been extremely good. LeBron is matured. He's been around the league over 10 years, 12, 13 years now. He's matured. He's a different kind of player. And with that much balance on the team, he doesn't even have to play as hard as he did. Remember last year against Golden State, he carried that team. They had Love was hurt, Irving was hurt. Yep. It was all LeBron James. A couple games from Smith, J.R. Smith scored some points. This is a great basketball player. This is a very good, maybe even great basketball team. I don't see Toronto matching up at all.
No, hey, look, here's the thing. Toronto, they did a great job to get through this last series. It's a nice advancement. They won the NIT. They won the NIT.
They're stepping up to the NCAA.
Now they're playing in the Final Four in the NCAA tournament, and they just can't match up. Can they stay within 13 points? This line's going to end up around 12 and a half.
Well,
somewhere there.
You got to
I suppose. But
you got to look at DeRozan and Lowry, and these guys are hit and miss.
Yeah.
I like DeRozan a little bit better than Lowry. He seems to be more consistent, but Lowry didn't show up the other night, and DeRozan he had 20-some points, but without the big inside guy to protect the rim, they decided to stop the three-point shot, and they cut it down, cut it way down, because against Atlanta they had 77 threes. I'm talking about Cleveland.
Amazing.
But last night, or the other night, they did not get that many threes. Why? Because they guarded the three, let them drive to the hoop. I think they got 82 points at the rim. You can't give up 82 points at the rim and stay in the game. It was blowout city. LeBron sat most of the third and fourth quarter. I mean, if they can rest their players like that, there's no fatigue issue, even if they're playing every other day. I don't see how this team can stay within 18, 20 points at any time.
Well, I think it's safe to say that Cleveland, and this is a very obscure reference, only for people my age and Jim's. Johnny Horton had a #1 song with this, I believe it was in the late 1950s. It was called Sink the Bismarck. And in this case, there's a guy named Bismarck on the Toronto Raptors, and he got sunk along with the rest of his team. And I suspect the same thing's going to happen in Game 2.
Best name in the league, though.
It is a very cool name.
Bismack or Bismarck?
Bismarck.
Bismarck by Yumbo.
Named a city in North Dakota, or one of those Dakotas.
I've heard of that. Yeah.
Very popular guy. Okay, we'll come back. We'll take a look at some baseball wagering strategies. A lot of good things to talk about. Stick with us. And it's time to talk some baseball betting. Baseball is my favorite sport from a fan standpoint. It always has been. From a betting standpoint, it's right up there as well. I think baseball and college football are probably my 2 favorite sports to handicap. And baseball, for me, is king because it's all numbers. And I like getting into the numbers. I mean, you don't need numbers to know that the Atlanta Braves are absolutely horrible and the Minnesota Twins aren't far behind. But that stuff's all on the number, and you've got to find ways to substantiate value out there. Try and find underdogs to bet on. That's what my philosophy is. You like a lot of baseball totals. You've always been strong in totals in all the different sports.
It has been something I've done well with over the years. I'm a little bit of an older school baseball handicapper, I do look at whips and ERAs, and I try to incorporate some of the newer data that's out there, the metrics and all the things that you talk about a lot, which I'm going to get to in a minute. But the totals seem to, I look at streaks as well. I look at teams. Are they getting a lot of hits? Are they leaving a lot of people on base? Those things add up to me, and I get a little bit of an edge, and that's all you really need. You're talking 162 games per team. It's a long season. It's a grinder season. You're going to have your losing days, but if you grind it out, you talk about taking a big favorite and trying to turn it into a one-run game. You bet a little bit of money on the favorite, and you bet a little bit of money on the run line. Yeah. That reduces it to a one-run game instead of 1.5. So if you're doing the right things every day and you're grinding, you don't get too enamored with yourself, with the ego and stuff. Oh, I'm winning, I can do anything I want. You don't get hurt, and you grind out a very nice profit in baseball.
It's just amazing how things have changed and expanded. I mean, I go back to the first time when I first started getting involved in sports betting in the baseball line. First of all, it was a 20-cent line. There were no dime lines or reduced juice or anything like that. 5.5, 6.5.
Yep.
That's what if you called the bookie. It was 5.5, 6.5.
The East Coast was that way.
Yeah. Now there's so many more different ways to go. The books are all in competition with one another, and they're all putting things out there to make people bet with them. They want the business, and that's why in baseball you can bet team totals now, individual team totals,
right.
First fives, just numerous things. It's the same as far as the handicapping goes. You can still use the RA, and you can still use whip and all the basic stats that have been out there for years, but there are now ways to refine those statistics and I think get truer reads, particularly when it comes to pitching, because you get FIP, fielding independent percentage, XFIP, Sierra, batting average on balls in play, which is a great stat in terms of determining whether a pitcher's getting unlucky or lucky. You can see a pitcher look after a few starts and he's got like a 460 batting average on balls in play. Well, there's going to be a correction coming because it's just the way things work. Now, sometimes you might want to wait for the correction to start or for the regression to start if it's in the other direction, or you might want to try and get ahead of the curve. You can find percentages on how each ball is hit. What happens when the ball is hit? Is it a fly ball? Is it a line drive? Is it a ground ball? You can get soft hit percentage, medium hit percentage, hard hit percentage. These are all things to factor in, and that's how I arrive at my numbers for pitching on a daily basis. It's a pain in the ass sometimes, but to be honest with you, I don't even have to do most of the work because there are sites now that do it for you, and they don't even charge anything. So,
but you still have to regurgitate all the information.
Oh, absolutely. You got to be able to comprehend what it means and make a good determination as to whether there might be a value or not. But to me, the market is set up now for the sports bettor. Okay, I think it's tougher than ever to make bookies, to have bookmakers make a good number that they're not going to get blown away with sharp action. That doesn't mean this is really important. The sharp action doesn't always win. In fact, you can probably look at the baseball game, it might be half the time it wins, half the time it doesn't. But the key for the books is that they have games now, and there's 2 or 3 games every day in baseball. It's way more in football. And the liability is way more in football. The one thing the bookie doesn't want, he doesn't want liability on the game. They don't care. It cracks me up when I hear people say, oh, Vegas is setting a trap on this one. You know what the hell you're talking about, okay? Because if they're setting a trap where they end up getting 75% of the tickets on one side, chances are a lot of the sharp guys are going to be buying the money on the other side.
Exactly.
It's just there's so many fallacies out there. Here's the idea of the odds makers is to reduce the number of games they have a liability on. And that's why I think there's an advantage for players in baseball, more so than other sports, Jim, because in baseball, I think that you can attain more value and find games where the books aren't as sharp as they are in football. They make a mistake in football, they're going to get clobbered with it. In baseball, not so much.
Dave, you're right. I'm just looking at the sheet today, and again, there's a couple games in progress at the moment. But when you can look at the tickets written on a side,
right.
You can do this in every sport, by the way. But you look at the tickets written on a side. So let's say the team is 165, and there's 70% of the plays on the favorite. But over a period of time, the line has gone down. So what that means is the bigger bettors that are not writing a lot of tickets, but they're writing big tickets. that would be the sharps.
But that doesn't mean you're going to win just by following the sharps.
No.
And here's the biggest problem I have with people who, I got to know which side's the sharp side and which side's the square side because I don't want to be on the square side. Let me give you an example from last night. The Washington Nationals played the New York Mets. Great matchup. Scherzer versus
Great game.
Syndergaard.
Great game.
Now, I had no play on this game for most of the day. But the sharp money came pouring in on the Washington side. I don't know, maybe because Duda was out for the Mets and there was an adjustment, but whatever. Sharp money comes firing in on Washington, and all of a sudden, now again, this is the sharp monies on the Nationals. By the time the game rolls around, it's about a half an hour before game time, and all of a sudden, Syndergaard's a home dog because the steam chasers got in there. Well, the sharp guys are on Washington, so I got to get on them too. Everybody's on Washington now. It shifts around. The Mets are a home dog. Well, now I've got value on the square, on what was originally the square side. That turned out not to be the square side.
Excellent play. But you have to monitor what's
Absolutely.
going on all day.
But don't get sucked in by this sharp square stuff, or don't let it override. Every Sunday in the National Football League, every Sunday we see this now, and you can go to Twitter, and there'll be guys that are putting the Joes versus the pros, sharps versus the squares. I do it myself because people want to know who's betting what. But that doesn't. But if you get locked into this mentality, if I got to follow the sharp guys, you can end up losing money. They're betting better numbers than you're getting when it gets closer to game time. And if you bet bad numbers, which is what steam chasers do constantly, you end up lessening your chances of winning.
No question. The question is, what is a sharp player? A big player, let's say there's betting $20,000 a baseball game. You could say he's a sharp player, but not necessarily so. There's a lot of people out there with money that bet, but they're not sharps. They're really squares with money.
This
There's
goes back
squares without money and squares with money. So you have to actually know who is making those plays.
Go back to the old days in Las Vegas, and our old friend, the late Sonny Reisner, one of the all-time greats. Sonny popularized a lot of the things that are out there today in sports betting. And I remember asking Sonny one time about moving the lines, and he said, it's not the money. This is a difference between old-time bookmakers and new, and I think why maybe the old-time guys were a little bit better. They had opinions. Sonny might move the line on a $50 bet if he respected the guy's opinion. On the other hand, some yokel could come in with a satchel full of cash and plunk it all down to the Dallas Cowboys, and he wouldn't move the line one penny.
Absolutely.
So that's, there is.
Exactly.
The bookmakers can still identify the sharps versus the squares, and they do respect the sharps with good reason.
But the bookmakers in the old days had a little bit more hands-on. Now it's so computerized.
Yeah, and the other difference, and this is, we'll give you a little Las Vegas perspective here. It's not real easy to be a bookmaker at one of the major hotels now because, listen, back in the old days, if you happen to have a bad run where the players were winning, it's all right. We're going to get their money in the long run anyway. Now, if you have a bad Sunday in football, somebody wearing a shirt and tie that's sitting upstairs is going to call down there and say, what the hell happened here? It's not easy to be a bookmaker these days in Las Vegas or any place else for that matter.
It's like a coach on the hot seat.
Yeah.
Bookmaker on hot seat.